Today on the Deep Dive, we're really zeroing in on quite a moment. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Yeah, that was something. We've got quite a bit of material on it.
We do. Sources detailing the whole event, and we're going to unpack his responses. Things like the trade issues with the U.S., this whole idea of Canada becoming the 51st state.
That old chestnut.
Right. And also the surge in Canadian national pride that seemed to follow.
Absolutely. So our mission basically is to pull out the key insights. What was Canada's stance really, and what does it mean globally?
Exactly. So let's set the scene. Imagine this live Hollywood talk show vibe.
Right, the El Capitan Entertainment Center. Sources say it was packed, buzzing.
In a real mix in the audience, apparently. Canadians, Americans.
Yeah, and some Canadians were, holding signs, "Proud Canadian, stand with Carney," that sort of thing, visible support.
And Kimmel, well, he has his style. Playful, but
Probing. Definitely probing. It created this really interesting dynamic for the whole conversation.
for sure. And he didn't waste time, did he? Went straight for the big issue.
The tariffs. Trump's 25% tariffs on Canadian cars.
Yeah. And Carney's response, calling them blackmail, that landed hard.
It really did. That's strong language in diplomacy or even just, public talk.
And he laid out Canada's counterpunch, too. Those retaliatory tariffs.
Yeah.
What was it? $155 billion.
Huge numbers. Targeting things like steel, but also, interestingly, bourbon.
Right. A specific choice there. He basically said Canada wouldn't play games and would keep pushing back until respect is shown.
Yeah.
His words.
It wasn't just like a token response. It felt like a real line in the sand.
Signaled a shift, maybe. A willingness to take some economic pain to make a point.
I think so. Using blackmail, that suggests, a fundamental breakdown in trust in how these talks were happening.
And the sheer size of the retaliation. It says something about their capacity and resolve, right?
Definitely. They weren't just rolling over. They were prepared to engage.
So, beyond Kimmel's questions, they actually played a clip, didn't they? Some U.S. politician.
Yeah, criticizing Canada, saying they were taking advantage, should be grateful for U.S. protection, that kind of thing.
And Carney jumped right on that.
Immediately, pointing out the billions in trade crossing the border daily, how linked the economies are.
His point being, harming Canada eventually harms the U.S. too.
Exactly. Which gets into the complexity of these modern supply chains, doesn't it? It's not just a one-way street.
Not at all. It's like things cross back and forth multiple times before they're even finished.
Precisely. That's what integrated supply chains means. Tariffs just mess that whole system up, often for businesses on both sides.
Which leads to this really key insight Carney shared. Something strategic.
Ah, the Ford CEO conversation?
Yeah. Apparently, the CEO told him the tariffs were actually, quote, crippling American factories more than ours.
Because of those integrated supply chains.
Right. And Carney actually called that Canada's leverage. That's quite a reveal.
It is. It sort of flips the script on who has the power in that situation.
What did you find most significant about that part?
Well, it shows Carney wasn't just reacting. He'd clearly analyzed the unintended consequences of the tariffs.
Okay.
And by pointing out the damage to American industry, he's subtly shifting the pressure, maybe even creating allies within the U.S. business world.
Clever. But it wasn't all just tension and tariffs. There was a lighter bit, too.
Right. Kimmel asked about potential tariffs on American fries, of all things.
And Carney quipped about Americans missing Canadian maple syrup.
A nice little moment, but then he pivoted really smoothly back to the long game.
Canada's economic strategy. Diversification.
Exactly. Looking towards Europe, Asia, Japan, new trade deals, investing domestically.
He painted this picture of Canada building a stronger future, and used that phrase.
Playing chess while others are playing checkers. Memorable.
Yeah, that shift from the immediate fight to the long-term vision. That's important, isn't it?
Crucial. It projects resilience, strategic thinking, shows Canada isn't just, waiting on the U.S.
Building options,
Yeah.
mitigating risk.
Exactly. Exploring Europe, Asia, Japan, that's clearly a strategic move to broaden their economic base.
And they did touch on how this stuff affects regular people, right? The cost of living.
Yeah, the impact on car prices, groceries, that came up.
And Carney outlined what Canada was doing. Relief programs.
Tax breaks for small businesses, support for workers, especially in the auto sector.
He really hammered home Canadian resilience there.
Which is important. You can talk strategy, but you also need to show you're addressing the human cost of these disputes.
And maintaining that social cohesion, showing the government is listening.
Right. Then the conversation shifted again to that idea that just won't die down.
Canada as the 51st state.
And Carney's rejection was firm. Unequivocal.
Said Canada's not a toy, it's a sovereign nation. Rich history, distinct identity, fierce pride.
And he had that little quip, too. If the U.S. wants a 51st state.
Ask Alaska first.
Yeah. A bit of humor, but it really underlines the point. Canada's not up for grabs.
Speaks volumes about that core Canadian identity, doesn't it? That sense of independence.
Absolutely. It resonates deeply there.
And then, almost on cue, they play a clip of Trump suggesting Canada would love to be a state.
Right, saying they'd get more hockey rinks and better deals.
And Carney's comeback on that was pretty great, too.
Pointing out Canada already has the best rinks in the world.
And as need anyone saving us from ourselves, again, hitting that independence theme.
It's such a contrast, isn't it? Trump's very transactional view versus Carney's focus on, well, intrinsic values and identity.
Completely different perspectives on what the relationship is even about.
Yeah.
So Kimmel pushed him. What if Trump actually called, made the offer?
And Carney didn't hesitate?
Nope, straight out. Mr. President, keep your states. We're too busy building a stronger, prouder Canada.
Wow. Direct. Declarative. You could feel the conviction.
Leave zero room for doubt, right? A powerful symbol of their commitment to their own path.
Crystal clear.
So how does Canada actually preserve its sovereignty under that kind of pressure? Carney talked about that too.
Yeah, he mentioned standing firm, obviously, but also investing in people.
And showcasing their global contributions.
Right.
Peacekeeping, innovation, leadership in places like the G7.
Right. The group of 7 major economies. He called sovereignty the backbone of who we are.
It's a broad approach then, not just political lines on a map.
Exactly. It's economic strength, citizen well-being, international respect. It's holistic.
Interesting. Kimmel also brought up this angry Canadian campaign idea.
Yeah, the angry Canadian of the night.
But Carney reframed that quite skillfully.
He did. Shifted it towards Canadians being proud of their values, resilience, unity.
Said pride was more enduring, more constructive than anger. Smart move, rhetorically.
Definitely. Focuses on positive identity building, not just reacting against something. Creates shared purpose.
They shared an audience letter, too, someone wanting to, physically confront Trump.
Yeah, expressing that frustration.
And Carney, while acknowledging the feeling, pushed back on that.
Advocated for a different kind of confrontation through action.
Voting, building things.
Yeah.
Demonstrating Canadian values, not, getting into a fight.
It suggests a preference for, let's say, strategic, principled engagement over just raw anger.
Yeah, a long game approach. Then there was that video moment.
The older Canadians in Toronto.
Holding the "We are not your state" signs. And singing a folk song.
Yes. Carney called that the heart and soul of Canada.
It was really powerful, wasn't it? Made the whole national pride thing feel very human.
It did. Showed those deep cultural, emotional roots. It's not just politics, it's lived experience.
Carney also talked about uniting the provinces, this Canada First idea.
How it brings together diverse regions from Newfoundland to Vancouver, focusing on shared purpose.
Mentioned investing locally, supporting small businesses, making sure every province feels heard.
Which is crucial for a country that diverse, geographically and culturally. You need that sense of shared stake.
Then Kimmel brought up something interesting, the spike in Google searches for "move to Canada" after Trump's election. It's a huge.
Like 5,000% or something. Massive.
And Carney's message was welcoming but conditional.
Yeah, basically saying Canada's open to those who want to contribute, who believe in the values, peace, fairness, opportunity. Not just people trying to escape trouble.
So a balanced approach to immigration.
Yeah.
Welcoming, but with expectations.
Exactly. Emphasizing that reciprocal nature. Newcomers contribute, embrace the core principles, building the nation together.
Of course, there were criticisms of Canada aired too. That clip dismissing it as a
cold, empty place to hide.
Right. And Carney's response.
Warm, witty, acknowledge the cold weather in January, sure.
But emphasize the warmth of Canadian hearts, the focus on community, not walls.
Yeah, a really neat way to turn a negative stereotype on its head, contrasting the climate with the social values.
And when an American viewer wrote in, admiring the leadership and wanting to move,
Carney had a direct invitation. Come, but bring your passion.
Portraying Canada as a place for fresh starts, meaningful contributions. Very open.
It reinforces that image, welcoming, full of opportunity for those willing to engage.
So if there was a surge in immigration, what was the plan? Did he talk about managing it?
He did mention scaling up the immigration systems, prioritizing skilled workers and families who align with Canadian values.
And investing in infrastructure.
Yeah.
Housing.
Right, a pragmatic approach. recognizing the challenges and opportunities, trying to ensure successful integration, avoid straining resources.
They also circled back to the cost of living concerns. Housing, groceries, gas, maybe made worse by the tariffs.
A very real concern for people.
And Carney detailed specific relief efforts, subsidies for low-income families.
Tax credits for small businesses, investments in affordable housing.
Really trying to reassure people sure they wouldn't be left behind economically.
Which is key for social equity, making sure the burdens are shared, that there's a safety net.
Then Kimmel hit another contentious point. The accusation that Canada is freeloading on defense through NATO.
A common criticism, particularly from some U.S. politicians.
And Carney's rebuttal was pretty firm.
Very firm. Pointed out Canada's actual financial contributions, billions, often higher per capita than many allies.
Highlighted their active roles, too. Afghanistan, Arctic security.
Yeah. Asserting Canada is a partner, not a subordinate. That they pull our weight, directly refuting that freeloader narrative.
They even played another clip, a politician calling Canada a burden, needing the U.S. to survive.
Just piling it on.
And Carney's response, sharp.
Asserted Canada's equality. Ready to collaborate, yes, but also fully capable of forging new partnerships.
Which he stressed they were already doing.
Right. Reinforcing that independence theme again. Diversifying relationships beyond just the U.S. A sense of self-reliance.
So what if Trump actually did cut off trade completely, hypothetically? What was the plan?
Carney pointed straight back to those other trade deals. Europe, Asia, Japan, ongoing negotiations elsewhere.
Basically saying Canada isn't dependent on any single nation. It's a global player.
Shows the strategic value of that diversification we talked about earlier. Gives them options, reduces vulnerability.
Could Canada actually thrive long-term without U.S. trade? He addressed that too.
Yeah, he pointed to current successes. Increased exports to Asia, a booming tech sector, clean energy investments.
Sounded pretty confident. He said Canada is already thriving, not at their mercy.
It's a strong, optimistic, forward-looking stance, countering any idea of dependence, highlighting inherent strengths.
And Kimmel, being Kimmel, had to bring up the wilder stuff. The bizarre rumor of a secret merger plan.
Oh yeah, the conspiracy theories.
Carney's denial was dryly humorous. Said if he was planning a merger, he wouldn't be spilling the beans on a talk show.
Right. Good point. He framed those conspiracies as attempts to erode trust.
Said Canadians are stronger than that and not for sale, tackling misinformation head on.
And his dismissive tone kind of deflates the rumors, reinforces that distinct Canadian identity. Not negotiable.
They even read an audience letter claiming he'd secretly met Trump to discuss the 51st state thing.
Seriously? Wow.
Carney just brushed it off. Too busy running a country for fantasies. Canada's not up for grabs.
Just slamming the door on even the wildest ideas. No ambiguity.
Then there was that video of Americans holding signs, "Canada is ours."
A provocative image.
And Carney's comment was resolute. They can wave signs, but they'll never take the pride that burns in every Canadian heart.
That really hits the emotional core, doesn't it? The intangible strength of national identity, deeper than politics.
He said the way to counter all this, the conspiracies and pressure, is truth, transparency.
And reminding people of Canada's history of overcoming challenges, unity as a shield.
Underscores how vital, clear, honest leadership is in times like these, building that public trust.
Absolutely. Reinforcing shared values, history, open communication. That's how you build resilience against misinformation.
So the final message. Kimmel asked for one to Canadians in the world.
And Carney delivered. Powerful stuff.
Acknowledged the challenges, past and present, but emphasized resilience, unity. This unwavering belief in a fair, strong Canada.
One that doesn't just endure, but thrives. And ended with that line.
We are Canada, and that is enough. Really impactful.
A potent statement of national pride, self-confidence, left no doubt about Canada's identity and place in the world.
You could see the reaction.
Yeah.
Kimmel looked genuinely moved, gave him a hug.
Yeah, it was a moment.
And Carney's final line to the camera, just electric. Canada doesn't bow. We stand tall, and we move forward together.
Boom. Encapsulated everything. Resilience, independence, unity. A really strong takeaway.
And the headlines afterwards showed it resonated, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Carney stuns America. Kimmel and Canada's PM, the anti-Trump duo. Carney ignites Canadian pride.
Even Kimmel wants honorary Canadian citizenship. It clearly made waves.
Definitely underscores the impact his appearance had, both in Canada and the U.S. His communication, his message, it landed.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, what are the biggest takeaways for you?
Well, we really saw a leader standing firm on a global stage, didn't we? Articulating a very clear sense of national identity, resolve under serious pressure.
It went beyond just policy talk.
Absolutely. It was a powerful display of national pride, strategic thinking, and a deep understanding of Canada's place. And the way he mixed humor with serious points about sovereignty, economy, values, very effective.
Yeah, and a few details really stick out, like how calm yet firm he was with Kimmel's probing.
Right. And that strategic nugget about the tariffs hitting U.S. factories harder because of the supply chains, that was a fascinating twist. Leverage.
And just the stark contrast between Trump's comments and the reaction of ordinary Canadians. That deep-seated identity really shone through.
hmm I think this whole episode, this deep dive, it gives you real insight into how nations handle these complex relationships.
The importance of clearly stating your values, the power of a unified response.
And the human element, too. Leadership style, public feeling, they matter hugely in international politics.
So here's something to chew on, a provocative thought maybe. In today's world, with everything so interconnected, but also full of competing national interests, how crucial is a strong, clear national identity for a country's success, for its resilience?
And what role do leaders play in shaping that identity and projecting it effectively, like Carney arguably did here? How did his performance resonate, both at home and abroad?
Good questions.
Hmm.
So what part of this deep dive grabbed your interest the most? Were you surprised by Canada's strategic tariff responses?
Or what are your thoughts on how national pride factors into international relations? How it helps the country stand firm?
We really encourage you to dig deeper if this sparks something. Look into Canada's trade policies now, its role in NATO, the history of the Canada-U.S. relationship. It's all fascinating stuff.
Definitely. And please share any thoughts or further questions you have. We're always up for continuing the conversation.